you're in unless you're out. And the reason we say it that way is that I don't want somebody to be in the office 5 days a week. Well, did you see any brokers this week? Did you see any clients this week? And if they said no, I go, well, no, you don't get a gold star, because that's who we're in business to work with.
Welcome to the Leader's Edge podcast. I'm Sandy Laycox, Editor-in-Chief of Leader's Edge. In part 2 of my conversation with Chris Sparro, CEO of North America for Sompo Commercial P&C Insurance, we get deeper into tech adoption. First, discussing best practices for new tech adoption, and then Chris offers some advice for leaders in the middle of digital transformation.
We're constantly evolving those, right? The best practices of today are clearly going to be outdated in the not too distant future, right? So what we're trying to do with our new talent and the technology that we have is really divided into two different spectrums. One is there's a core technological proficiency you need to have around the job function that you have, right? So if it's underwriting, how are you using your underwriting systems in order to process business? And you need to be very good at working with those, right? And that doesn't sound, that creative, and that doesn't sound that exciting when you're thinking about all the different advances that are happening in technology today with AI and things of that nature that are more quote unquote fun to use.
Yeah.
But there's a basic building block of you have to rely on your technology, your data, your network in order to facilitate the exchange of information from you as a carrier to a broker, then ultimately to a client. And so there needs to be an appreciation that you need to be really good at that. So let's make sure we have a lot of good structural foundational training from underwriting systems and pricing systems and claim systems. As an example, if you're an underwriter, and for the different functions, there's similar things that we get there, but understand that's your core competency. And that you need to do that well, because that's how you start to build your professional reputation. If you're known for service and you're known for knowledge and you're known that you can be relied upon with whomever you're exchanging, is a critical component. So we try to tell our new talent, stay focused on that. But while that's going on, we're also introducing lots of other tools that are more AI related, right? That'll help you with narratives on underwriting workups, or on narratives on claim development, or narratives around pricing trends. And these are all great tools that are compiling information that could help inform you of the environment you're operating in to make you that much better from a competitive perspective relative to the carriers that you're competing with. But that's a second set of technology that isn't. You want to be more knowledgeable of the world you're working within from an insurance perspective, but you got to remember there's this other technology that is the backbone of what you do that you got to make sure that you're proficient. So it's two different worlds that we try to train with.
Mm-hmm.
And particularly the newer talent, they like the more exciting stuff, the stuff that's emerging. And I could see, we see it where someone will delve into that for the next 4 hours of a day, but there were 3 quotes that needed to get out that maybe didn't get out. So we try to parse that and make sure that people are understanding what that piece is of that technology as we introduce that in, so that they have that opportunity to feel like they're learning still, because they just recently come out of a classroom environment. So I think there's always this constant affinity to continue to learn, just the manner in which you want to teach them to learn. So technology and those two pieces are big. And then direct engagement with your colleagues to bridge you to build relationships on the outside is part of that third bucket that we like to spend time with our people on, so that we can get them in a better position to use those tools in a real live world to ultimately achieve greater success. So as they're starting to think about their career and they're starting to think about the things that they should learn to advance, whether it's self-study on their own, these are the avenues by which we try to create those opportunities for them.
And what about for folks who are sort of in the thick of it and can't really see the forest for the trees at the moment?
The interesting about that is depending upon your organizational design, and for us as an organization, we tend to be heavily decentralized.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I mean by that is we have people in 19 different locations throughout the U.S. So we have smaller offices of people, like 20 to 25 people. And so if you're sitting in a smaller office, you're not in that forest, right? You're on the outskirts. So you get to see how everything is going. And, you don't wind up getting stuck in quicksand as if you're in a bigger location where you have that. So what we try to do is recognize that there's two different learning environments that we have our people in. And for those in the what I'll call it the mothership offices that are bigger and have that gets to be a challenge, right? And you have to make sure as they're looking at time management of their day that you're actually forcing them out of the office. You're forcing them to go meet with people. Or strongly encouraging it, right? Creating those meetings where it's happening that way to do that, so that it's okay to actually leave your computer for part of the day at work, right? You can still have your phone, but it's okay to leave the computer. Like you can be okay with it, maybe a pen and a pad. If you go into a client meeting, so or use your brain to just remember those things, so that you're engaging eye to eye contact. Like you're physically looking at people, you're reading body language, so you get the tenure and tone of a meeting. And this types of things we try to train with our new talent in the first couple of years, is understanding what's going on in a client room or a broker room based on what's not being said. But like I said, what's the body language look like? What's the agenda? How are people carrying themselves, right? These are important things that you need to realize if you're going in there with an agenda and a purpose that you want to know. Are you going into a headwind, or because you didn't think that there was going to be a problem when you walked into a meeting, and then ultimately you uncovered there is a problem because they want to talk to you about something that wasn't so pleasant, but you weren't expecting that to happen. And being able to pivot in a conversation, and we've done training where we had people actually go into a meeting thinking it was going to be a normal meeting, and then created an escalation point just so that we can see how they would react, and say, like, because this is real life, this can happen. And then they're like, well, Chris, you said this meeting was going to be about just the renewal, but you didn't tell me that they were going to bring up a bad claims experience. So I'm like, well, you just don't know that sometimes. You got to be able to anticipate. And so we try to do some of that sort of support training in addition to other things, just to kind of get them to that place where they can really understand where that forest is. Is you got a lot going on. You're struggling with what to do, and you got to remember how to balance yourself so that you just don't get shut down inside your cubicle, your office, and you're not experiencing the rest of what we need you to learn from.
Finally, we talk about the process of building long-term relationships by first engaging internally in order to be successful in the external market.
It's a great question, because in this world today, it continues to change post-COVID, and I don't know how much longer we'll be able to keep saying post-COVID as it goes by. But it still has a lot of relevance, because today Sompo is our work environment's hybrid, right? If you just looked at it corporately, we're in 3 days and we're working from home the other 2. But within Sompo as a company, we've empowered business leaders to be flexible about what they want their working environment to be. So for me, as an example, on the underwriting side, and this doesn't pertain to all functions, but since our people are client facing and they're distribution facing, we want our team in every day. And so we refer to the term, you're in unless you're out. And the reason we say it that way is that I don't want somebody to be in the office 5 days a week and they say, hey, Chris, I've been in 5 days this week. Do I get a gold star? And I'm like, well, did you see any brokers this week? Did you see any clients this week? And if they said no, I go, well, then no, you don't get a gold star, because that's who we're in business to work with, right? So you have to be able to engage. So people say, then why come in? We should just go out. And what we often tell our people is, well, that's where you start to develop culture, right? Because you want to be able to work directly with colleagues of different ages that will allow you to be incorporated into their daily activity by virtue of the fact that you're actually in the office to do that. So, instead of having WebEx meetings and things that are so structured, it could be to a new talent. Hey, I'm going to get on a call with a client. Why don't you come in and listen to how this goes? I'm going to have lunch today with a broker. Why don't you come along with us so you can learn a little bit more? So we're trying to show our newer talent that by coming into the office, you start to experience culture, you build relationships with your colleagues that ultimately will provide an opportunity for you to get to people outside. But you got to be able to start somewhere. So we as we set ourselves up right now to really get to the outside, you got to get to know the people of your company on the inside in order to get through the door to get to the outside. Otherwise, new talent just can't call up a broker and say, "Hi, my name is blank. I want to come see you," and they would say, "All right, come back in a year when we get to know you." Right? You need to have a bridge. So internally, working together, understanding the culture, understanding how people do things, creates that opportunity and opens that door to really start to get into that world. And that world is very important to be in. And I say to our people and in our organization that are part of my responsibility, the biggest fear I have for our business is the level of relationships that our newer people create and develop today to generate revenue 5 to 7 years from now. So as we have other folks that are aging out and retiring, those relationships go away. They don't get handed down, quite frankly. Books get moved to other people, and depending on who those books get moved to, you're hoping that your network of relationships at the more junior level in the company can sustain those books of businesses and help to grow those. So it's very much a part of our culture to want to get people comfortable with the tools internally to spend their time externally with people that they're engaging and interacting with to build those relationships for the future. And we use the internal getting together, culture building as the roadmap and the doorway to get to that.
That was Chris Sparro, CEO of North America for Sompo Commercial P&C Insurance. I hope you enjoyed our conversation. For more Leaders Edge podcasts, go to leadersedge.com.